Ford has come out with some fantastic cars in the past. Who can forget the older Mustangs? That was a big hit. In the 1980s, the Ford Taurus. They made lots of money on that vehicle. Nice ride. So now we're at our storage and test facility. We're going to roll out the latest hit that Ford has. Everybody wants one. The 2022 Ford Maverick truck. A nice looking rig. This one's slightly better looking than the base Maverick because it has options like the nice metallic paint, bigger wheels, off-road package. We'll get to that a little bit later. The base Maverick is advertised around $20,000, but this one has goodies. This one has the optional 2.0 EcoBoost engine, the optional 8-speed automatic transmission, the optional all-wheel drive. Starting at $22,280. Reasonable. Here are the options we had. Certainly the spray and bed liner is something you definitely need. That pepper red metallic paint, I'd go for that. And that brings us up to 30 grand. Not bad for a four-wheel drive truck. In addition to the Ford Maverick, this week we're also driving the Hyundai Santa Cruz, the direct competition for the Maverick. Very, very nice looking rig. And like the Maverick, has a short bed for hauling smaller amounts of gear than the bigger truck. We did a full week test on the Hyundai Santa Cruz. If you want to see how it compares to the Maverick, just go to the end of this video, click, and watch that video as well. The base engine is a 191 horsepower hybrid with front-wheel drive and a CVT transmission. Clean fuel economy is impressive at 42 mpg in the city, 33 on the highway, and 37 overall. We have the optional 250 horsepower EcoBoost, which comes with an 8-speed automatic transmission. Front-wheel drive or optional all-wheel drive, as we have here. And I seriously suggest you get the all-wheel drive if you're going to get this more powerful engine for better power distribution. Clean fuel economy is 22 mpg in the city, 29 on the highway, and 25 overall. The advantage we have here, we've got over 4,000 miles on this vehicle since it's been in the fleet. We're going to give you the real MPG figures at the end of this video, so you might want to watch till the end. Although with the 4,000 miles, we'll be checking for leaks, squeaks, and rattles. See how well this thing's built. By the way, if you watch my videos, you know anytime we get a vehicle, we take the headlights out in the dark and see how they perform, and we will be doing that later on in the video. I'm doing it at the end of the videos now instead of the beginning. So don't go away. If you want to tow this vehicle, you can with the base hybrid motor, 191 horsepower. You can tow 2,000 pounds. Get the optional 2-liter turbo like I have, up to 4,000 pounds. The bed capacity is said to be 1,500 pounds. Impressive for such a small vehicle. One of the big complaints on the internet people have been voicing is the short 4.5 foot bed. A lot of people want something longer, and I say no, we don't need a longer bed for 3 reasons. Number one, the whole idea behind the Maverick is to have a small truck that fits in tight spaces. If you get a longer bed, you're defeating the purpose. And number two, if you had a big, long 6-foot bed in this, you'd have idiots loading up about 4,000 or 5,000 pounds of stuff in it, overload the truck, and get themselves killed and sue Ford. Don't need a long bed. And number three, from a practical standpoint, let's face it, guys, if you have a long truck with a 6-foot bed, 95% of the stuff you're ever going to haul will fit in a 4-foot bed, too. So as far as I'm concerned, the 4.5-foot bed is more than adequate. I wouldn't change anything here. I'll give Ford credit where they deserve it, and they did a great job on this interior. Even though there's some cheap plastic used, it doesn't look cheap. Fit and finish is excellent. Controls are very simple. Here's the climate control, a couple knobs, a couple buttons. Even a monkey could do this. I'm glad we did away with the stick shifter. They take up too much room. You have to take your eyes off the road to operate them. Here we have a simple knob. I prefer a push button, but a knob's still better than a stick. A very simple gauge cluster. As you can see, we're averaging 22.9 mpg. Not bad for a 4-wheel drive truck. And for the rear seats, they do fold back, so you have storage containers down here to hide your cash, gold, and guns. It's a wee bit cramped back here, but room enough for 2 adults for a short, medium drive anyway. So far, I'm very impressed, so let's take this out and do some driving. There's 2 gripes I have right off the bat, though. The angle of the ignition switch is kind of odd, so instead of sticking the key in and just turning it one time, it's a 2-step process. You have to put the key in, put it forward, then grab it again to start the car. 2-step process. Very annoying, but not a deal killer. And my second complaint that nobody wants to talk about is the turning radius. A small vehicle like this, you think it'd be a very tight circle, but it's not. I've tried to park this in spaces at the mall, and this is a very, very wide turning circle. I haven't looked up the spec yet, but it's really no easier than some of the full-size trucks I've driven. Whether you're pulling into a space or backing out, it's going to take a lot more work than your typical compact truck. Again, not a deal killer, just annoying. And here's what the rear view camera screen looks like. Not the highest resolution I've ever seen, but more than adequate, no complaints. Ford did an excellent job on this power steering. Great feel and feedback. Responsive, quick. Now keep in mind this is the all-wheel drive version. Haven't driven the front-wheel drive. I'm assuming it's going to be the same. Then again, it might not be. But I have no complaints with this one. As we do in all of my videos, we're going to take some mild speed humps at 15 miles per hour, see how the suspension performs on impact. Here comes bump number 1. Heard a lot of thumping, but didn't feel too much. Oop, got a pothole here. Let's see what happens. Didn't feel that. I'm hearing the thumping noises, but I'm not really feeling too much. Here's the 3rd bump. And the nasty bump. Smooth enough for a truck. For what it's worth, this is a very smooth truck on the street, a lot smoother than the speed bumps. I think this is going to be a nice choice if you're taking long trips. This motor and the 8-speed automatic transmission got lots of pep. Nice brakes too. Alright, time to look at the fuel economy figures. I put 68.8 miles on this today in heavy city driving. 17.6 mpg. Alright, not that good. I was driving pretty briskly. But here's the real figure we want. This vehicle's been in the fleet for 4,373 miles, averaging 23.7 mpg. Very impressive for a all-wheel drive truck. I'm certainly not complaining. Especially after the week I spent in the Ford Raptor at 11 miles to the gallon. And for those worried about hauling things with a short bed, you don't need to be. Here we have a 7-foot-high bookcase, among other items. Fits no problem, doesn't even extend out the bed more than a couple inches. If it wasn't a problem for me, it shouldn't be a problem for you. One common complaint I have heard on some YouTube vehicle testers is that this dash has way too much reflection, and thus reflection of the windshield on a hot sunny day. And as you can see, it's just not true. I live out here in the desert. There is some glare coming off the dash for sure, but it is not in the windshield. I've tried every angle, any time of the day, and I don't see the issue. That's all I can tell you. Don't know what their problem is. Another gripe voiced by many YouTube reviewers has to do with this antenna mounted on the roof. Supposedly, if you want to put a roof rack on here, it's going to interfere with things, and I suppose that would be true, but if you're putting a roof rack on this truck, it means you're going to have gear on top of the roof as well. And with the high height, high ground clearance, Lightweight, skinny tires. This is not a truck you want to put a roof rack on and gear on top of that. The first crosswind that comes along, that's not going to be good. I'm not saying it's unsafe to put a roof rack on top of a Maverick and the gear with it. I'm just saying if you are, there's a good chance you might have exceeded the cargo capacity in this bed, and it might not be a good idea. I just don't think it's practical myself. So I'm not worried about having an antenna on the roof, because I wouldn't put a roof rack on my Maverick. That's just me. And on highway trips, cruising at 75 miles per hour, maybe just a wee bit more, we got 27.2 mpg. Pretty impressive considering we were carrying about 800 pounds of cargo. A lot in the bed, the rest in the cab. Can't complain about these figures. Gotta do some ranch patrolling today. Stop by the shack and pick up some supplies, and we'll be off in our Ford Maverick ranch patrol vehicle. Just as the suspension performs very well on pavement, it does pretty good off pavement, absorbing all these impacts. Ford did a very good job. And of course, with all-wheel drive, we have better traction in this sandy trail. The width of the Maverick is narrow. Makes it easier when you're traversing on narrow trails like this. A lot easier to fit into than a giant Ford F-250. With the FX4 package, the Maverick does pretty good off-road, for light-duty use anyway. You won't be outrunning any Jeeps or Range Rovers, though. One thing I've noticed when going off-road or driving rough streets, the fuel door cover has a tendency to pop open. Don't know if that's common on Mavericks or maybe just mine, but if you're doing a lot of off-roading out there in the dust, you might want to check this every now and then when you're getting out. Obviously, I'm not the first person to test one of these on the internet or YouTube. However, all the other tests were done in the daytime. No one's driven these at night, and that's a shame because we need to find out how these headlights perform in the dark. And these are big uns. Yes, sirree. 3 large bulbs on the left and 3 large bulbs on the right, from what I can see. So let's take this out in the dark and see what happens. Okay, it's dark enough. Let's take these lights out and see what they do. And I have the low beam setting on right now. 2 on the right lit up, the one on the left not. And apparently you can't turn the high beams on unless the engine's running. Strictly low beam, so I turn the engine on and here we go. Looks pretty bright to me. And here's what the taillights look like. Bright enough for me. And the emergency flashers. Not as visible in the front, but good enough. The cabin doesn't light up too much, but there's not too much in here to light up. This is a pretty basic vehicle. Everything you need to see, you can see, except you're putting the key in the ignition in the dark. You're going to have an issue here. Doesn't light up. Now we can see it because I have the dome light on, but well, they had to save a few bucks somewhere, right? Here's what the rearview camera looks like in the dark. Not the highest resolution I've ever seen, but more than adequate. If you want your bed lit up when you're carrying cargo, you've got a very powerful light. I think this is optional, part of a light package. I'm not sure. I wasn't able to find out. If you do get this, you will be pleased. Alright, let's go to the headlight performance. We have all 100 feet away, got the low beams on. Very impressive, good height, good spread, very bright. Looks pretty good. Now the high beams. Not overly strong, but adequate. And here we have the brights on a fence 80 yards away, building 130 yards away. Pretty decent. Go low beam, wow. Reaches out. I'm very impressed with these headlights. In fact, I'm very impressed with the truck. And there's one thing I despise on new cars, that's auto-dimming mirrors. It always darken the glass when you don't want it, especially in heavy city driving. You can't see what's in back of you. I'm happy to see these are manually operated. On, off, when you want and when you don't want. Thank you very much. And these manual mirrors are a lot cheaper to replace. Had an auto-dimming mirror that would cost me $600 to replace, but it was a Mercedes. What do you expect? So what's my take on this Maverick after a week of driving? Is it as good as everyone's claiming? Yes, it is. I have no complaints. The people at Ford did a very, very good job on this. Would I buy one? Yeah, very good possibility if I was looking for a vehicle to haul things under 30,000 bucks. This would be on top of my list. Coming up next, a full review on the Hyundai Santa Cruz, the direct competitor of the Ford Maverick. See how it compares. Click and watch.